Going through the picks and the bans is a pretty similar ban phase from game number 1 so far, just a slightly shuffled order. LNG, of course, now on the blue side. We'll see what their priority is going to be. So we didn't really have like a place that seemed like it was going well for them last time. Now the Azir windmill slammed in B1. This has become such a common B1 right now, and maybe Haichao can have a little bit more to do.
Yeah, he's got a lot more safety on this pick as well, it's worth remembering, right? Like, he can just get himself out of danger with a lot more freedom, really. But one of those picks that has gone completely unchecked, we see so many jungle bans here, and the one that we normally see so frequently on red side is that Pantheon. But has been let through here. It is at the cost of the fact that Trundle is still open. Now, Trundle actually made it all the way through game 1 and never actually got picked. So I was expecting it to be, forgotten about here again, maybe picked up as a secondary pick in that jungle role. But the fact that Trundle has been picked over the Pantheon, definitely not something that we've seen in recent history, but something that in this instance, Xiaohao has gone for.
Yeah, we saw the hover, and we'll see if Xiaofang is gonna reach out and take that one left on the table. Akali, in fact, locked in right here, so perhaps less of a quiet early stage, less of a quiet lane and game for Angel. Of course, he really started to get into gear when those team fights kicked off later on. And of course, I guess we technically could still see that flexed elsewhere, but we will see who's going to take their hands onto that assassin. And the Pantheon, it seems like, will probably be picked up. It has been proffered, hovered, and then given over, and then locked in like that.
Xiaofang, fiending for an Italy game here, but unfortunately, his mid lane is already locked in, AP, and he has a coach stood. Yeah, his coach is stood behind him, just giving him the eyes, going, "Not today, lad. No. Italy is definitely an R5 jungler, unfortunately, and we are on blue side, and you've got no CC in your mid lane, so we're gonna say no to that one. We're gonna veto that early doors, and I'd also, as if that wasn't enough, the most broken jungler on the patch is still up. So let's just make sure that we're getting the Pantheon in. Let's get our reps in on these picks, and I do think as well that for these players, importantly, it's about remembering that they are still fighting for their contracts for next year, right? Off-season changes, they do happen, and LNG are going to go into this off-season and think, who is it that we want to keep? Who is it that we want to try and find somebody who's a little bit better? This is effectively LNG at some point in this, having a 5 set of players that are fighting to keep themselves, with a job, or maybe looking to push themselves that little bit further up in the LPL if you think that you've been maybe hard done by your team.
Yeah, absolutely. With the the series against Thundertalk, if they can try to take some games off EDG, even if they cannot make the play-in spot, they would still be able to end on a pretty positive note, considering the season and the year that LNG has had. Now, Zika's locked in the Scion. It's going to be another weak side king moment for him, sadly. Into a Trundle as well, a little bit tough. But the best of the actual lane matchup is EDZ. And again, it's bot side left to second rotation. The Poppy, the first takeaway, and we'll see the other focus on those bans is going to be.
Yeah, I think Poppy taken away when you've got a Akali on your side, very, very clever, very important as well. The EDG do that. Now, looking at our supports, we still got the likes of the Braum open, which is something that a lot of our supports have gone to in game 2 and game 3s. I didn't think that the Rakan was going to be able to make it through. I mean, Parukia has looked pretty darn decent on this for the most part, and getting that band away from him has been a route that some teams have taken, not necessarily to success, because there's so many engaged supports that he's able to typically pick up whatever he wants and do very well with it. But even still, picking up this Xayah ban as well now for EDG does suggest that they're gonna be very heavily focused on that dive. And for EDG and for Parukia, we've got things like Nautilus still open, Leona still available if he wants to take either of those, and just something to give him a bit of free time in that bot side to kind of engage at will.
Yeah, we'd love to see a little bit some hard lockdown on the side of EDG. Plenty of mobility there. We've got good target selection. We've got burst. We've got sustained damage. What we could do with that first pick element, and looks like Nautilus will be the choice. A classic of the genre, but this does at least give OVO this time the chance to potentially try and counterpick if he wishes. Now the Alistar away, the Poppy banned away, Rakan and Nika removed by themselves, and we'll see if LNG have some room to give us a little bit of spice in that bot lane, or if we're just going to try and actually win the game. We shall see.
Lucian Braum. Come on now, you know what you need to do, LNG. Lock it in. There we go. Thank you. Unfortunately, when you blind pick Nautilus, you get Braumed. And when Lucian is in such a good spot, or as good a spot as he is right now, you are just going to get hit with that on occasion. But now EDG, depends how they want to round out this poke composition, right? They can go Jhin, they can go Senna. There's some good AD carries to layer damage over the top. You could maybe look for a Kai'Sa here as well if you wanted. Again, this is a pick that again, On has defaulted to. This is a powerful duo if they want it, but opting for the Senna, opting for the safety and not actually throwing hands in this 2 versus 2 makes a little bit of sense. I do think that Senna versus Braum in particular actually a really good matchup. Senna's auto attack's not counting as a projectile, meaning that the Unbreakable is rather useless in these short trades pre-6. Yeah. But it's you know, still a pick that is going to synergize really nicely with the EDG composition overall as well.
Well, okay, not necessarily any craziness dropped right here, but there is some playmaking potential, that's for sure. For LNG, they've got the Pantheon jungle, they've got the Lucian Braum in bot side. We can potentially see some action here. Maybe try and flip the script from game number 1. That would be nice for them. But EDG, we do have plenty of outplay potential as well in those solo lanes. First game, it's all about jungle, it's all about bot lane. Let's see if EDG, Angel, and ZDZ can step up and give us some highlights this time around.
Yeah, and you know, you've got to importantly remember that this is a front-to-back composition for LNG. They're maybe looking to play on, you know, that 1-2 item spike with the Lucian, but they've got that DPS threat as the game gets later in the Azir as well. But I do kind of fear for this Sion in particular. We're going to see Black Cleaver most likely built up by the Ambessa. He's playing up against a Trundle as well. I think, you know, Zika going to have a very hard time positioning, very hard time ulting as well. You know, you just fire your ulti into a choke point and you get pillared. Oh, okay, well, cool.
Nice one, brother.
Yeah. My ult has been rendered useless by a basic ability. Thank you very much.
Shoot. So we are going to head onto the Rift right now. EDG and LNG. We'll see if we can have a different story right here. Now, at the very least, so we still have decent, you know, we've got good backstop scaling for LNG. We had it in game number 1. We just did not really get to see any of that one, but we've now got the Azir for Haichao and level 1 calls with the Braum and the Sion. Xiaohao in trouble right now. Of course, Haichao poking away with the sand shoulders, and EDG will not give the game away, but they have at least been pushed back. LNG with a positive start to this game.
Yeah, very, very, very rude there of LNG to interrupt their fans and stop their Xiao from owing. And unfortunately, you know, for Xiaohao, he plays the first 5 minutes of this game with no flash. Looking at our little AI bot down on the bottom, always good to see how much I disagree with this thing. With LNG being, you know, favoured as this game gets later. Again, I do wonder if they've ever seen Senna and whether or not, you know, the scaling that this champion provides offers anything or means anything to them. You're going to get a replay of how this broke down. Xiaohao, I mean, he walked into a brush where there was a Braum and a Pantheon waiting. Yeah,
and such is life, such is the reward you will receive for behavior like this, and has to flash away. Does take a little bit of sting out of that Trundle early on, but Parukia going straight in with the hook. Now again, the Braum passive does slow this play down once again, but it gives An a couple of nice, lovely Senna passive stacks. And they actually walk away pretty happy with this trade, especially now.
Yeah, and remember, any trade that EDG take that isn't an all-in for LNG is winning for this EDG bot lane. Senna can just heal them up, and the range of Senna actually already really starting to prove its worth.
Oh no, the hook, and he gets the early barrier from Fish 1. An is just peppering them down with these autos. It feels like he's ignoring minions at this point because there's always an LNG player in range.
This is disgusting. They've already done a very good job through the early stages of this lane, and again, this is Senna who's going to have heals on tap, right? With the little heal that she can provide, it's going to make sure that these trades have been very, very beneficial for EDG. Hoping that On can maybe try and find a couple of CS as well, as, like you say, he was largely ignoring those, so he's actually only got 5 out of the first 2 waves, which is maybe a little bit lower than typical.
Parukia with a max range hook, and Fish One trying to complete the back, trying to leave Hogia out in the lurch with him. Mike getting exhausted of Braum stunned down. The cleanse comes out from the Senna. Now they can start turning it around. Parukia's got so much else to play with. Another stun lands. Braum going lower and lower. A flash away from Fish One as Parukia finally misses a hook. But An and Parukia have just once again completely dominated this early stage.
Yeah, and you know, the Lucian, they're looking to try and get a recall on that wave. It's now going to be much harder for him to find, I think. Already swapping out to that top lane, just saying, yeah, these guys they've unfortunately doomed our bot lane. And when you're Lucian Braum swapping away, that really does speak to the dire straits that you find yourselves in. And Zika TP's down to that bot side to catch this big wave, doesn't even get to go back to base. Likelihood is that ZDZ will get to save his teleport here and maybe walk out to that bot side. But that teleport, I mean, I think in game number 1, LNG caught EDG off guard with the swap, but the teleport makes it incredibly obvious, and it does mean that it's really easy, actually, for On to match this swap, for OVO and Parukia to both find themselves out on that top side, and really just kind of make it so this swap is, in effect, nulled.
Yeah, it is pretty tough for LNG's bot side right there. Even earlier in the last game, fleeing to the top side, chased down by Arn and Parukia, and they will still have to manage out this 2v2. Now Lucian with no summoners. OVO just with the flash and a summoner spellbook, it must be said, but certainly not necessarily 3 kills on the board, but still a massive start for the EDG bot side. Another hook lands with damage coming down right here already, and remember, Arn can keep stacking away with those abilities. The health is free to trade for Rosanna.
And again, in case this wasn't bad enough, this is a Lucian who's supposed to have the run of things through the early stages of the game. And all of these fights that they take, yes, we talked about the heals, but also these are free stacks for On as well. Getting to, any sort of breakpoint is only going to make the game harder. The sooner you get that first breakpoint, it makes hitting the second even easier, especially if you're in these laning phases. The extra range just means it's that much easier to train those auto attacks down onto the enemies and continue to farm those souls up. You can see him poking around, probing with some Qs, actually a really solid use of one of the hidden mechanics of Senna's W. If you kill a creep with it or last hit a minion with the damage from it, the root is instant. It's not this wind-up effect. You can see him using it there just to find a quick soul proc onto Fish 1.
We haven't seen too much of the junglers so far, but Xiaohao now ready to try and find an angle here. Remember, no flash Lucian, and the flash in from Parukia gets the hook, locks him down, and Xiaohao around the corner. This is just curtains for Lucian, but he's not going to go down without a fight. Picks up the first kill with a trade onto Parukia.
Yeah, not bad, honestly. I'd like to see Xiaohao stick around and try and push this wave in. I don't think that he's going to be too hard-pressed to get down to this bot lane unless he really wants to try and fight for this dragon. But instead, it means that this top wave will be caught by Fish 1. He'll be able to get out. Oh, never mind. He's moving bot lane. This top wave will be caught by somebody, which is important, and it's going to be an ulting Xi onto the top lane.
Okay, well, the minions are going somewhere at least, but EDG, once again, putting the pressure down on bot side. At the very least, Fish 1 can keep that gold even with a kill. We'll see a replay of that one, and it looked completely dire, but of course, the Nautilus, not a tanky boy. He might be big and bulky, but he's not got much defense to speak of.
Yeah, Parukia sticking around a little bit too much there, but even still, it's getting a 1-for-1 on the enemy AD carry is always something that you will take as the support. As soon as Aftershock wore off, it's good heads-up play by Fish 1 to know, okay, I can go for a trade here and make the best of this bad situation. Kind of minion importantly secured there for Parukia. Very importantly.
Sets up the kill, goes down for it, but this is my payment, this is my tax I shall make. I'm going to take this cannon for what I've done for you, EDG. Zika trying to push in against ZDZ up on that top side as well. This is once again a nice, calm, cool, collected lane with a Scion now able to stack up that wave. We'll see what ZDZ can do later with the Ambessa to maybe try and threaten that backline. Of course, the ultimate gives a great way to try and just kind of dive past the Azir walls and flip onto a Lucian if they're not paying attention. But LNG are going to have to try and protect against that threat.
And I do want to talk a little bit about how the rest of the comps try or sort of pivot, I suppose, as this game gets later. Yes, LNG have struggled through the early game with their bot lane, but importantly, Haichao in a pretty good spot right here on the Azir, not actually feeling too hard done by on this Akali. And this is the time in the game where the matchup does start to swing, where we've got level 6 on the Akali, so actually Angel might start to be able to make some plays. But the Azir scaling exists, and if this game continues to be relatively slow paced, we may expect to see the mid laner for LNG has that little bit of agency to pop off. But that's not to say that the late game for EDG is bad either, right? They've got really solid, cohesive dive with Trundle, Ambessa, and Akali, that Nautilus as well. The Azir's life can be made miserable very quickly.
Ooh, Angel threatening right there. Xiaohao around the corner, spotted on a ward, and Haichao wastes no time sliding out.
Really good heads-up play just to get yourself out of dodge. And this Trundle as well is going to be incredibly tanky, despite this Trinity Force Rush opener. Subjugating a Scion is always going to give you some great effect, and I was cautious, I guess, of how EDG would be able to take down a tank with this composition, and we might get to see how they take down a 5 versus 5, or at the very least a 4v4, as looks like LNG are posturing around these grubs. And Zika down on the bot side, he has got teleport.
Wants to come in, he can. And so far EDG are going to take this more, and LNG again not pulling the trigger. Similar to game number 1, they'll show up for the play, but just cannot seem to get into a comfortable position to actually act on it.
So that's 1 wave, probably 2 waves lost down on the bot side from EDG. So not a nothing play for this LNG roster. Yeah, they don't get anything by way of grubs, but they do importantly, you know, deny a couple of waves away from the Akali, and you can see in that experience as well that Angel is, you know, a good half a level up over the Akali, and I think that's going to be a really important avenue to success. The side lanes for EDG should theoretically be pretty darn decent, right? The Akali does very well. The Ambessa can look to trade very effectively versus the Sion as we hit that mid to late game. But if the Azir is ahead of the curve, if he's making sure that this Akali's life is pretty miserable, it does make it quite tricky for those side lanes to succeed.
Yeah, LNG actually, we are even in gold right now. We're even in kills. We have given away the grubs, but ultimately they've had a much better start to this second game. And now the kind of the unwritten advantage that EDG's been stacking up, obviously, is the Senna Souls. There is no scoreboard item for that, but it's currently almost at 40, at approaching the 10-minute mark. Just so much heavy trading in that early bot lane stage has really been getting an accelerated start on that passive. And the factor that even the airbot seemingly isn't aware of, but we will certainly see LNG become aware of it if we keep going like this and Anna's able to keep up this pace. Yeah,
honestly, I'd like to see EDG keep swapping the Senna around and putting her where the Lucian Braum is, keep trying to farm those souls. Let's make it as difficult as possible for this Lucian to get any sort of resources, as well as the fact that, you know, Angel, you know, in that Azir matchup should theoretically be favoured. Maybe this is a conscious effort by EDG to make sure that Akali can actually get a little bit back into the game, as opposed to making sure that their Senna is pushed a little bit ahead of the curve more so than anything else. I do also want to highlight the power that these grubs actually give to EDG. Them finding 3-4 nothing is going to be very impactful when we look at these you know, first turret rushes. Normally we see this happen about 13 minutes in or 12-13 minutes in, where there's a cross-map play looking to take place. Trundle absolutely destroys turrets. Yeah. If he has grubs, he destroys turrets even faster. If he has a Sheen, he destroys turrets even faster. And currently Xiaohao hitting 3-4-3 of those, only going to be exemplified when he finishes off that Trinity Force. But a quick poke around the Dragon, doesn't find anything, and again, importantly, it's when Trundle gets access to these turrets that we're really going to see the power of those grubs come to fruition.
EDG respecting the LNG composition right now and backing away. They have some vision down, but will not go out of their way to protect it to a fault at this point. And with Xiaofang on the Pantheon, we've not really seen the Pantheon play hit the rift so far, but he's got ultimate. He's just completed the Sundered Sky as well. He's ready to get stuck in with the Braum, with the Lucian that's got that first item. Everybody except for Zika, in fact, in LNG has that first big ticket in the inventory that needs it. And this means that they can actually look for a play if they want. So EDG, they're aware of this. They're not going to overforce it. There's no rush for them in this game.
Yeah, and importantly, that is in contrast to EDG, who have yet to find those recalls, who have yet to put the finishing touches on that first item. Not quite going to be able to interrupt the recalls there, so On does get to go back, finish off that static shiv, and now can start to play for priority in this mid lane. Still waiting to see that Proto Belt come through. The Trinity Force now finished off for Xiaohao, and there we go. Those first round of items still have been now picked up by EDG, and importantly, LNG didn't use that window, right? That was a timer for them to maybe try and find a dragon, maybe try and find any sort of fight where those first items weren't on the board for EDG, and instead they were able to get to those first items. And On here, again, just farming a couple extra stacks. He can queue off of minions, he can heal up. These trades, again, don't really mean anything.
Yep, absolutely. EDG rock solid in this early stage. Parukia and Xiaohao looking to catch up OVO. The Trundle is there. OVO simply will jump back to fish one. And I'm really waiting for Xiaofang to pull the trigger right here. All the resources, all the ability that Pantheon has to make plays. And we're just looking for something, anything, to get LEG some momentum into this game. We can't be sitting around for too long. Now that we have these items, and Arn has now been actually matched back up into the Solution Braum as we would have wanted to keep those souls rolling in.
Yeah, I mean, 48 it looks like already. 13 minutes in, he is eating incredibly good in this early to mid game. This is a very, very accelerated center by way of stacks, not necessarily by way of gold, but you know, it's feeling pretty good about their position in this game, and if they can stay alive, find a little fight here, you know, the amount of souls that you're going to get, that's another one onto OVO. So whether or not he can stand and T-pose like that in the face of LNG without punishment.
He doesn't quite land the hook, and the Trundle Killer will slowly advance. Dragon already completed. Now LNG a little bunched up. Actually, Engage comes in from Haichao, but they engage right back in there. The public execution from CDG separates them off. Angel with the first kill into OVO. Finally, Xiaofang on the board, but they cannot get the Akali off this Azir's back. Fishon with the barrier to keep himself topped up. Can do a little bit of damage. But EDG, they get the objective. They slow the LNG advance, and they make the play after.
Yeah, 2 for 1 in the play. They only lose out on Parukia, who once again is more than happy to give his life for the cause. It's a pick up onto OVO and one onto Haichao as well. Finally, we get to see Angel lay waste to the Azir, something that had been not really happening through this entire early game. And this is largely decided by the top side of this fight. I like the heads-up play by Parukia to try and engage onto Haichao to begin with. And the scoop in from the Azir, unfortunately, as soon as he gets knocked up, ZDZ uses him for an escape as well. It's great timing from the Ambessa to be absolutely fine and make sure that there's no real way that this is ever a threat to her. You see the barrier forced on the backside as well, so Fishone now in a little bit more trouble than maybe he might have liked.
You really get a sense of the self-sufficiency of the solo laners of EDG in that play. ZDZ gets scooped in, but uses it to get all the way back out. Angel can dip and dive through the front of the fight to get onto Haichao in the backline. It's so difficult to lock these champions down, and LNG just experienced that firsthand, and now finally the gold still fairly even, but the feat of warfare completed, very just slightly starting to diverge for EDG. The Trundle Pillar cannot cancel the culling, not too much damage thrown back either way. Xiaofang may be looking for a follow-up again. We've not seen too much of the Pantheon. Got to kill that last fight. Stun onto An. Fishone round the corner, gets the flash at least out of the center, and they'll have to step back.
And that's a win for LNG. Finding Flash off of Arn there is not a nothing summoner spell. This now opens up for pretty much any mid-wave that Arn steps to. He can get Pantheon ulted. He can get Focus fired by this LNG roster. They're going to use that advantage to try to take this Rift Herald, but EDG again, teleports ready, heals ready, Storming Shadow coming up off cooldown.
All 10 members accumulating in the river. Herald done for Xiaofang, but he's taking a lot of punishment on the front line. Has to drop the shield down. Parukia over the wall. Looks to lock them down. ZDZ with the first kill. In goes Angel. Now OVO fleeing. Haichao with the scoop back. Keeps himself alive for now. But again, the solo laners from EDG are just inevitable. You put the wall up, they'll just leap right over it. And LNG are now trapped under this top lane tower. Fishone doing what he can. Arn poking and prodding. And EDG are just bottling them in this top lane.
Get the wave!
From the Nautilus. ZDC doing what he can. Fishone desperately hugging the wall, but in comes Angel. Throws out the 5-point strike, and it's another kill for Akali. Now Zika, the last left alive, manages to scrape his way out. Arn reaching too far, and LNG's top laner again, finally, symbolically and literally, the last one standing.
Okay, well, it was it was a good fight, and then it got a bit messy. I think that EDG are quite happy with their position again to keep our sort of stat tracking going. 68 souls for Arn currently, as he is 17 minutes into this game. He is feeling very, very good, and just constantly poking away at this LNG roster. This center pick, save till R5, is certainly paying dividends for the time being. But Parukia, once again, eyes on Haichao every single chance he gets, looking constantly at how he can set up Angel to take this Azir out. Honestly, pretty unlucky that the scoop shoves him away from Fishone there. I think that the Lucian probably in a lot more immediate trouble had that have happened. We didn't quite see this, but in the picture-in-picture, Angel did find a solo kill onto OVO, so just another little bit of gold for the Akali. 10 stacks currently on the Dark Seal.
Yes, this game looks like it might be set up for Angel to take the spotlight, and that certainly seems to be what's happening. 5-0-1, fully stacked on the Dark Seal. Seeker's ready to hold on to that shutdown as well. This is all about the Akali right now. You can see it there, the replay. He just catches Bomb in the rotation and runs him down with no issue.
Oh, yeah, using Exhaust and Redemption to try and stay alive, and it wasn't even close, just to be clear. So it would have taken a lot more than that to keep OVO alive. LNG, though, looking to try and make a play, it looks like, on the map, able to get themselves a little bit of free time with this bot lane tier 1 turret. They do still have the Rift Herald as well, and that tier 1 turret in the mid lane isn't, you know, particularly healthy. Might like to see them try and make a secondary push or a bit of an assault to that Herald and see if they can find anything with the mid lane turret.
Dragon coming up on the bot side, Haichao pulling the recall. Looks like he's going for the Rylai's second. Not the most common Azir build we see, but it is going to give him a little bit more survivability, hopefully. ZDZ has been drawing a bead on him in every single fight so far. He just needs a little bit more survivability. Can maybe do more income Xiaofang to try and punish this Unbetter. Has dropped the flash, but now Azir's in for a little bit of revenge. Redemption comes down, but a flash in. And LNG will pick up a clean kill onto that top side. Sadly, it will be at the cost of the Dragon.
Yeah, and I think this is a good play for LNG still. That taking turrets around the map, opening up the map as well. Actually, you know, looks pretty good for them at this stage. Might even be able to find a bit of a play for the second turret with all 5 members making their way up to this top side. I would be concerned about the response by EDG if they might look to try and make a play in the mid lane, but looks like just some posturing, just some shielding to their solo laners as they kind of think better of committing for that tier 2 turret, knowing they don't have a lot of vision on that topside jungle makes it quite tricky for the likes of Illusion. Even the Braum to try and walk in there can be quite dangerous.
Despite the kill lead, the fight success for EDG, the gold is still more or less level as we approach the 20-minute mark. EDG sitting with the advantage in grubs and the advantage in dragons. It is the Ocean Soul Rift so far in this game too, so some of those more survivable carries, the Sennas, the Trundles, the Ambessas will love to have a little bit more extra healing. LNG is going to have trouble bursting them down perhaps if it goes that long, but for now, at least it's not an Infernal, at least it's not a Hextech Soul. They don't have to worry too much about that just completely ending the game in about 8 minutes time.
Yes, exactly. A little bit more stalled than maybe Game 1's Soul might have been. Obviously it was a Cloud, and I think EDG in the end didn't even elect to take it because they could take the Nexus instead. A questionable decision, if I must say, from EDG. But they are still in a very, very good position in this game. On looking like he'll work his way towards his rapid fire cannon second, and probably at this point in the game might just look to go straight for that Black Cleaver to try and be the person who can tear the armor down of Zika. Again, do want to highlight that without Trundle, the ability to take down a Scion here quite low for EDG, and that gold graph, you know, as much as through the, you know, let's say 15 to 17 minute mark, EDG had a good couple of fights, found themselves with a bit of an advantage. LNG did do a good job at taking some turrets that haven't yet been responded to.
Yes, they have managed to drag back that difference and keep this, as you said, basically level. So LNG still with plenty of tools to make the plays. We're now looking at second items coming in across the board. We've seen it almost entirely completed for EDG. Just Xiaohao left to get that one done on the Trundle. But LNG as well. We've already got the Rylai. It's got a Flicker Blade and even more crit for Fish 1. So this Lucian is heading into a mid-game and should be able to do a heck of a lot of damage. A big culling onto the right target could be game-changing. OBO, in fact, drops the ultimate onto Parukia. This Nautilus, remember, not so tanky, has to flash away, and Xiaofang will secure it. In comes Zika from the side. ZDZ looking for an angle. Doesn't quite get stunned. Angel as well. Both the solo lane is isolated, but Xiaofang forgotten about on the left flank and goes down to Arn. Now Xiaohao can run forward looking for OBO. A root comes in. ZDZ dives. Haichao with a shoot back, but cannot stop Angel. Fish one back to the tower. He needs to try and survive, but Angel says absolutely not. Takes him down without a second thought. The triple for Akali, and EDG run the fight again.
Masterclass from Angel on this Akali in game number 2. Saw the Azir and decided that this is the matchup that he wanted, and we can see why. Finding another colossal fight here. This time it's in the mid lane. This time it will reward EDG with an Atakan as well. And those 10 stacks are putting in work.
Absolutely. Angel is phenomenal in this game. They'll turn it straight into the Atakan. There's a TP coming in from Zika. I'm not sure what the angle is here, but maybe they have one. EDG looking to just pick up this objective. The Atakan so well managed in game 1. Looks like it's going to be the same in game 2, wasting no time fleeing back to the base.
Back to business as usual for EDG. The second this second fight really starts to take off. It's a complete slaughter. A little bit scrappy to begin with, as again Parukia, maybe not the target that you want to be focusing down, but they do expend a lot of resources to take him out. And as I think you highlighted quite rightly there, forgotten almost on the top side. Xiaofang just Gets left like a lamb to the slaughter, and then the ensuing 4v4. About to cut back to life.
Oh my word, Xiaofang again back in there, but look at Angel. He's into the backside again. ZDZ following up as well. 2 more on the board for this Akali. I think we're at 10-0 right now, at least for this mid laner for EDG. There it is. No assists required. It's all kills all day.
I mean, get the Medjai's, lad. What are we waiting for here? We've got the Zhonyas, we've got the Proto Belt. Like, this is a Medjai's game if I ever saw one. Angel having a very solid pickup and a very solid performance in this second game. And, you know, this is, again, it looks like it started out with Parukia maybe being the one who's the focus of the assault. Yeah, they get the stun under the turret, but Fish1 tanking the turret to try and take down the Nautilus. Yes, he does that, but, again, it comes at such a dire cost, and you can see that Zika just decides he could have helped, he could have not helped, and he sort of chose his path as soon as he saw the way the fight was going. Actually, I'm going on the bottom side of this wall, thank you very much.
He drives by, rolls the window down and goes, nope, that's not for me. I'm not liking that one, folks. I'll see you next week. Goes back to mid lane, and now EDG onto this dragon, looking to set up an Ocean Souls point. The team fight's coming thick and fast here in game number 2, everybody. ZDZ threatening on the flank. Where is Angel? Currently just sitting with the bulk of EDG. No crazy flank position just yet. Fish1 and Haichao have got to be terrified of this threat over the wall.
Waiting for Angel to see what his pop-off can do. No shuriken flip, so there's not a way for him to get in just yet. On, though, in a bit of trouble.
That's the flash away, barely scraping away. Of course, the center being alive means he can heal up a little bit. The dragon forgotten by the wayside of Xiaofang, looking for Angel to keep him out. He's being zoned decently right now. Parukia, though, with the hook. Out comes the slam.
In
Down
goes
the
Akali.
dragon and into the backline again. It's Angel. You cannot escape this, man. ZDZ once again draws the target on Haichao's back. And it's the same formula every time, Roodood. Every time it works, EDG smash the fight.
And On, with 100 HP, somehow does a 5k team fight. Angel as well, going nuclear in the backline. It's just clinical from EDG. They walked up to the Baron, and I mean, I think they've remembered that their center went down to bot side. They actually can't get away with going for that, but they'll be happy to take some gold back on the map. They'll take this bot lane tier 1, which feels a little bit sort of backwards at this point, given the fact that they're winning fights around dragons and the idea that they could have turned to the Baron there. But the way that EDG are taking these fights are just so clinical, and the gold that, unfortunately, LNG don't have is just so apparent. The positioning from ZDZ and Angel this entire time is absolutely crucial as well. Look at the way that they just threaten LNG. The second that LNG step past this sort of banana bush, it's the time when EDG know, okay, now is our time to shine. The Sion can only frontline on so many angles. Haichao can't mark the Akali. There's only so many things that a frontline can do. And unfortunately, when Fish1 steps up to auto-attack, he gets ulted by the Akali, one shot by Angel, and everybody else has already fallen down. The power of the Sion may be good as a frontline, but if it just gets ignored, what is it that LNG are to do?
Absolutely flawless by EDG, making such great use of their mobile solo laners, diving into that backline time and time again. LNG now trying desperately to pick up some bounties on the map, but ZDZ strolling down the river into a flank position, a double route from An. Angel surely just waiting for the chance to go in. ZDZ's been spotted. They have the Azir Sundisk as well that can delay this, but he's going to cut the wave for them. This just feels like, again, the tension building. And LNG trying to take this.
They're going to look for him now. Can he ult OVO?
Very isolated. Lovely follow up by Zika and Fish1 with the kill. There's something back for LNG now.
Go Baron. Honestly, this game is so difficult as we get later. This is your best chance to get the Baron and also your best chance at trying to deny it. Stop Angel from getting in, steal away the Baron. Either of those are your win cons here, and it's still difficult.
Yeah, maybe Haichao can finally not get publicly executed in this play. They're already backing away. In comes the flag. Fish1, how is he so low already? On with the ultimate, moves the deal. Angel beautifully stasising through the Emperor's Divide and now annihilated on the backline as well. Takes out one, forces the flash from the second, dashes over for that one, and oh my word, EDG, it is just the same every single time. Even 4v5, Angel picks up the slack and does the work of both solo laners. Zika will get a last-ditch kill, but now the Baron's exposed.
Yeah, Parukia cursing his AD carry there a little bit because On decided to hit 4 auto attacks on the control ward in the pit instead of taking down the Scion, who eventually takes out the Nautilus. So no Baron buff for the Anchorman, but EDG will be more than happy with the fact that they found 5 kills, and once again there was very little response available from this LNG roster. Again, EDG looking like they are putting an easy stomp on this series, a 2-0, which again maybe should have been expected. But Fish, when he gets hit by 1 Q, a little bit of static shift proc, he's half HP, 1 chomp, subjugate, he's dead. It's unfortunate nature of this Lucian in the mid game trying to play out these team fights. It's just so difficult. But Angel, again, on this Akali, clinical, waits for the flashes, and again, with the timing on his R2 flash as well to make sure that the execution comes through. He has picked up the book, CJ. He has got 22 stacks. And this is the Akali performance that we love seeing.
Yeah, finally choosing to bet on himself right here. Into the backline again. Goes into the stun combination, but a quick shroud will get him out of danger right there. Xiaofang heading for the hills, just delaying the inevitable. Angel picks up another Haichao, maybe looking to strip away those Medjai stacks, desperately reaching for a Sand Soldier auto, but there's just not enough space for it. And with the fire back and the Sun Disk is up, but it cannot stop the march of EDG. One by one again, LNG crumble, and Zika so many times in this series, in this year maybe, abandoned under the bot side tower to be the last death for LNG. Another Baron push is coming into
the minions. Guys, kill the Scion. We need the minions, please. They do manage to find what is another 5-4-0. And I mean, EDG at this point are just having fun with their food. It's taken them a little bit longer than game number 1 did. But On is to 145 stacks. 30 minutes into this game. Like, he's also attacking from the Howling Abyss. It's just not fair at this point to try and make LNG play this one out.
Yeah, with the level of stacking that they were doing from minute 1, forcing those early trades, playing the range so beautifully, and on now, it's paying dividends. You know, even with the build that static shifts, Black Cleavers, RFCs, you know, the beauty of Senna that you can build these less heavy damage items, but you're still doing so much work, and Angel is just free to go where he pleases at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's your Pantheon full combo, dealing 20-30% of the damage. You know, Ignite goes in there as well, but you have to commend Xiaohao here for thinking that this is the way to come back into the game, because getting that shutdown, taking down those stacks is the play. Unfortunately, he also auto-attacks a creep in that interlude and probably cost him the kill on the Akali. And you can just see, I mean, this is unfortunately just cyberbullying at this point, unfolding in front of our eyes. As again, it's Zika who's frequently the last man left standing, somehow on the Scion. 3 deaths, and the rest of his team have got at least 6+. And EDG probably looking to put the final nail in the coffin of this series.
Yep, top lane tower falls. Gestural hook onto Zika, and the Culling comes out. Parukia not even that bothered anymore. Now with the Ocean Soul, even Nautilus is hard to take him down at this point. The waves crashing in. Angel always once again threatening from that mid lane. The Baron wears off though, and the wave can be cleared out without too much problem for LNG. They want to try and threaten. They could go for the Miracle Shuffle for a Pantheon stun. They're looking to try and isolate Angel. Of course, the Shroud comes down. He simply walks away.
And he's gone invisible.
Yeah, covering right here. Another knockup misses from Zika. Xiaofang doing what he can, but it's we're just you know, checking the watches. We're waiting. We've got buses to catch, everybody. So EDG,
Ocean Soul as well. I mean, this is probably just. Look at how far auto attack or On's auto attacks are reaching as well. Like, he's just constantly farming, constantly destroying the HP bars.
Yeah, triple inhib comes down, hook in from Parukia, trying to force the issue, and ult goes down onto Fish 1, but there's the damage going through. Angel on the back line, 2 turrets be damned, he's still going for the kill, so the Ocean Soul gets it with the swag stasis at the end. Completes the double, makes it a triple, maybe the quadra, but they're already dead. There's no targets left for him. And Angel in a playground in this game. Xiaofang watching outside the window as his own Nexus explodes, sadly. But EDG,
wait,
needed
let
them.
him kill the Pantheon! Yeah!
There we go. Completed the ace. We needed EDG to calm the doubters, to, you know, to persuade everyone to remain bought in there. And it seems like they are. Seems like that's the message they needed to send to EDG fans and to the potential opponents in Group Ascend.
Yeah, a good win. A nice little ending to the regular season for EDG there, and now they can go into what is going to be I like to think, very competitive post-season. I'm hoping that we get to see some quite closely fought series between EDG and IP, and then FPX and WE, however those end up shaking themselves out. But for LNG, again, a little bit unfortunate. They are now officially locked out of the rest of the season. A 2-8 scoreline for them means that no matter how the game score wins or how the game score works out, they won't have 3 series wins at an Ultra Prime now. Fortunately, quite happy that they next series is maybe less impactful. It's not a case of can they end up in or out of play-ins. It's a case of can we end on a win.
Yes, Ultra Prime again with the pressure off can maybe try and sand off what edges they have remaining to try and get themselves in tip-top shape for that play-in stage. And yeah, for EDG, they are continuing to remain in that second locked-in position. I think that for me, that second game, such strong commitment and understanding of the game plan in every single fight. You called it clinical, and it's a word that casters use quite a lot, but I think this was a particularly appropriate application of it. It was so consistent, so repeatable every time, that they clearly understood that game plan down to its bones and were able to execute on it without issue.
Yeah, and again, it was the idea that they'd keep on moving the Senna into the Lucian, and that somehow Senna was absolutely bodying a Lucian Braum lane. Again, something that we don't frequently see too often. You lock Lucian Braum versus an Nautilus, I'm expecting that lane to be a wash. Yeah. And it was a wash, don't get me wrong. It was just the wrong way that we thought it was going to be, as the Senna was doing all too much to, farm up, get some items in, and making it really quite difficult for this bot lane of LNG to really ever thrive. And, we started out the day with a highlight graphic of OVO and the power that he's brought to this roster, saying it was going to be a tricky matchup versus Parukia, and unfortunately it was exactly that. It was just a completely one-sided affair in that bot lane.
Yeah, tricky's one word for sure. Parukia putting on a bit of a display, sending a clear message in that matchup, just everywhere he needed to be, especially in that first game, of course, taking the player of the game in that first round. So they can now look forward to settling in for an exciting play-ins run. As you said, a very competitive play-ins shaping up right now. LNG need to go back to the drawing board, and it is such a shame to have such a sharp cliff drop-off for LNG from what they were able to show, almost cementing themselves as one of the regular international representatives for kind of a couple of years, a couple of splits there. And we still have teams like IG and Weibo and Top and AL now up there. We've had these new teams come in, and it seems like LNG sadly has had their spot yoinked. It's going to be a while before he's maybe
where some teams rise. Unfortunately, some teams have to fall, and it has been quite the fall for LNG. Hey, on the bright side, at least they played this split. There are a couple of LPL teams that didn't even play this split. So, take the completely the very, very small rays of sunshine where you can find them. And the very thin silver lining that there is. But if you're an OMG fan, for example, hey, where have you guys been for this split? And we're looking at an LNG organization that is going to look to probably rebuild and to look to restructure themselves moving into 2026 at this point, because that's what we're looking at. Maybe into Demacia Cup as well, getting a couple of really solid players in and making sure that they've got some rosters that they can be proud of, and hopefully return to that high level and to that world stage, because the organization, as you say, has met such high highs in the past that the idea of flunking out of Nirvana without even a play-in sniff is pretty disappointing to them.
Yeah, and we can see the gold graph here that it is a little bit more compressed. We had a lot more time on an even keel right there. LNG, as you'd said, able to make plays that were not answered to just get pure gold advantages on the map at times, but ultimately you can see when the team fights, and it's just a step. It is a staircase down. Angel team fight, Angel team fight, Angel team fight. And it's that's when it's somewhat lost control for LNG. Couldn't really get their hands on it again.
Yeah, and I will say as well, whilst it was Angel who was popping off in the team fights, the damage percentage, On was going crazy. You're asking how is this person solo HP all the time? It was always On. The answer was just always this Senna who was frontlining, T-posing on LNG for the most part of this game, constantly whittling away at health bars with that massive range that he had, just really never even making it close.
Yeah, and people, it's going to put paid to the idea that, guys, send us a supportive ADC. You know, if you play like this, if you completely outtrade the Lucian Brom, and then you're playing on the line in these fights, baiting your opponent into bad spots, doing huge amounts of damage in that backside, even if you're still building that slightly more supportive build path, you can do so much on this pick. Especially when you've got like 70 stacks by 16 minutes, that certainly goes a long way.
The pacing on this Senna was crazy. Like, this might have been the fastest stacked Senna that competitive League of Legends has ever seen. Unironically, there are probably going to be, a couple of games that come close, but I don't think there's anything that quite tops this, as it was just action constantly for this bot lane, and we focused on it so much for this exact reason that even though in these team fights, yes, it's Angel who's doing the critical damage, but the fact that On is just able to so frequently, free hit almost in these team fights just makes it so scary, and means that those Dawning Shadows have that much more impact, that those heals are coming through and again are doing so much more.
Yeah, you can get 3-4 Relentless Pursuits off in one fight as Fish One. It's not going to keep Akali off your back. Those ult charges are so long, ZDZ so precise with the public execution, with the spammable dashes that Ambessa can bring as well. And the backline was just completely under assault from LNG the entire way through. Love the picks for EDG to try and achieve this, the way they played it out, as we said. And despite LNG trying to make a couple of plays, trying to find desperation moves back in, it's all they could do, right? And it's what you have to do. But EDG's quality just a bit too high. They're not going to leave the door open. They're not going to give the freebies back over.
No, and again, like we talked about the EDG expectations for this series, this was, the standard. This was what we were hoping to happen. For LNG, unfortunately, they weren't really able to keep their hopes of going into the postseason alive. And, after the first round robin, we maybe thought that might have been possible, but it was always going to be a difficult road, an uphill battle for them. And unfortunately, one that they couldn't really do enough with. I think that Ultra Prime, to sing their praises, have done a really good job. They came into the first round robin as a team that we were hoping for good things for. We saw anything but good things from them in the first round robin, and then did clutch their way back, clawed their way back into what is now a position where they can do a play-in series.
Yeah, absolutely. They have earned the right to be there, and we'll see if they can bring us a little bit more excitement in that later stage. So, I mean, there must be a home for Zika somewhere. Surely, we must have a home for Zika somewhere. Today was a pretty shining example of the problems that he has had. And again, it's an Ornn and a Sion game. There's just not too much you can do on your own, right? You're a very strong piece of a team composition, but we need a team. We need a team to have this composition,
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, the bot lane, again, completely outclassed in this series. And, for LNG, they are a sub-bot lane coming in, or a replacement bot lane from their start-outs, but it's still a really tricky position for them to find themselves, as we do get confirmation. Angel, the player of the game, for game number 2, and I don't really think that anybody is too surprised.
No, not with a 7k gold lead. Not super surprised by that one. Almost dropping a 20 bomb on them in this second game, just to put LNG summarily out of that league, unfortunately. So, Angel, as we said, it's certainly not a player to forget, despite the fact that not necessarily thought of as those flashiest, most symbolic LPL mid laners, has been around for a long old time and can put on truly monstrous performances when the time calls for it.
Exactly, and the time maybe in an LNG series it wasn't called for today, but he did it anyway. And I think that moving into the future series, right, this play-in series that they're going to play, it's 1 best of 5 to see whether or not they make it to playoffs. It's time, when you play against FPX up against WE, and I do think that just looking at it, both of those mid lane matchups don't look particularly awful as I look across the board. So you've got Karish, you've got Care, they're 2 mid laners who have been okay, serviceable, but that have definitely been sort of highlighted in this group ascend for being ones that aren't necessarily up to par with the rest of the squad. So definitely an area that Angel probably can look to exploit.
Yes, absolutely, but we have to wait for play-ins to see if he's able to do so. For now, we're making good time today so far on that first series route. We're going to go to another break, and we'll be back in just a little while with our second series, JDG taking on Anyone's Legend. We're going up to Group Ascend for that second round, and there are still positions to lock in that play-ins and playoffs picture. So don't go anywhere, guys. You're not going to want to miss it.